let's start with our next presentation. That will be by Mr. Prasad Joglekar, who is the Executive Vice President, Supply Chain and External Manufacturing with Jubilant 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗆 Limited. To give you a background, he is a versatile C-level strategic supply chain procurement professional with 28 years of experience in pharmaceutical, chemical, packaging, film, metal, mining, cable, and other industries with multinational and high-growth organizations. He has successfully handled high-value spending, increased leadership responsibilities in India, Asia, and developed region, and led the multicultural team worked in a matrix environment. Can we welcome Prasad with big round of applause, please?
Good morning. I think all of you should be awake. There is no lunch time. There is a break, small break, but nevertheless. So the topic which we are going to discuss today is building a smart, interconnected digital future of procurement. A very, very ideal situation to be in. Okay. Unfortunately, at least at this point of time, we are not there, and we are far away from there. Now, before jumping into this all innovation as well as integration, digitalization, let's first understand the business environment where we are in at this point of time. So the business is becoming very, very volatile. In fact, now I have spent almost 30 years in the industry, and the way the industry was in the 90s and the way the industry was in early 2000 and the way industry is in this 2020 onwards, there's a huge shift and the volatility is humongous. And obviously, the procurement responsibility is to actually respond to these changes pretty fast. We need to be more agile. And one of the things is that the products and services are getting commoditized very, very fast. What used to the commoditization used to take 20 years, 15 years earlier. Now it is all happening within 2-3 years. Even in this digital space, all those companies who are trying to put forward their products like ERPs or for that matter, these procurement tools, there were 1 or 2 earlier. Now there are maybe 20, 30 solutions available in the market. So that's sort of a commoditization which is happening. Third is the products life cycles have shortened dramatically. 2-3 years, 4 years, products are just going out of market. Technology changes are happening at a very, very faster pace. And why this is important? Because when we are looking at the digitalization, what you are doing today, maybe the solution which you are looking is only for 5 years or maybe for 2 years or 3 years. So you need to understand all these things when we are actually looking forward. Employee retention is becoming a big challenge. And why I am highlighting it here, because it has got its own implication even in the procurement area as well. And then, of course, the sustainability and green procurement is becoming a kind of a buzzword, the focus area. I think a lot of speakers have already spoken about it. A lot of companies all across the world, they are taking the zero target by 2030. Some are taking targets in 2050. God knows whether we will be there or not there to see they are zero or not zero. And then, of course, the regulatory environment is forcing a lot of companies compliances in the area of procurement. I think some of our speakers also spoke about it. Now, how procurement has to respond? Obviously, enhance the speed, agility in terms of the decision making. And that's where the digitalization, why I'm trying to say all this, ultimately everything will boil down to digitalization. Then enhance accuracy of the analysis, because that, and the qualitative decision making. Important to forecast the prices of inputs more correctly and take decisions accordingly. So a very, very critical thing, particularly in 2020 when the COVID started. Crude has fallen to negative. I think for a day it was negative, and thereafter it was around $2. Now, I remember, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues, and I just said that, at this point of time, we should buy crude. No harm in buying crude. Somebody said that, why not -10? They should pay for pay to us. Now, within the space of 6 months, it was already at $80. And now, of course, everyone knows where it is today. So things are changing very fast. The prices are moving a lot. Aluminum prices, they just went over the roof, and now they are at 5-year low. So, in such a very drastic environment where things are moving very fast, the price forecasting is very, very critical. I was just talking to someone here in this conference only, and we were just wondering 6 months down the line, what is going to happen. We are planning for inventories today for 2 months or 3 months or maybe 1 month of number of days. 6 months down the line, if God forbid, if the recession starts in US or Europe, what is going to happen to all that inventory buildup which is going to be there? So these are the challenges. Then create digital database of suppliers, partners, and develop processes to ensure fast onboarding of supplier for faster new product development. As I was mentioning, new products are essential for this to maintain the pace of revenue, and this product life cycle has shortened. It means there are more and more new products which you are supposed to bring to the market, and for that, obviously, this supplier onboarding is very, very critical, and that's where I think digitalization has to come in play. Then creating the training templates using advanced tools for onboarding employees quickly. Now this is very, very critical because nowadays the employees are coming, and within 1 year or maybe 2 years, they are just going to some other company, or some of them are even freelancing as well. Now in such an environment, you have a standard operating processes, you have ERPs, you have procurement tools, and you have to train someone to start from the scratch. You need to have strong training modules, again digitalized training modules, which can bring them on board that onboarding process very, very quickly. You need to have the tools which can onboard them, let's say in 7 days or 10 days. So that should be the kind of targets we need to keep in. And then of course, keeping the audit trail for each of the decisions. Because this is, in the procurement particularly, this is very, very critical, because it's internal auditor, it's external auditors, even sometimes the suppliers are also auditing you. So keeping the audit trail is becoming more and more important. Now, let's look at the procurement digitalization journey. In early 95 to 2005, you look more or less the digitalization or digitization. If some people actually differentiate between digitization and digitalization. So maybe we can call it as digitization. So implementation of ERP was the one which was happening during that period. 2006 to 2012, people started implementing softwares like Ariba, which was typically a procurement tool, and then planning tools also came into fore. 13 onwards, focus shifted to logistics, track and trace of material which is going out or coming in, contract management tools, then implementation of some other tools like supplier relationship management, vendor portal. But some of these things were in the nascent stage, and they are actually getting matured now. And 22 onwards, what we are seeing is basically the maturity of AI, ML, bots, OCR, and other technologies. Now these are resulting in implementation of, I think someone talked about payment processing, implementation of three-way matching system, price forecasting tool. Now again, price forecasting tool, we were discussing, all of us, if not, maybe at least few of us have used this price forecasting tool. And I must say they are best of the breed price forecasting tool. Even for a week, their forecast accuracy today is close to about 96-97%. And 3 months forecast, from today to 3 months, the accuracy goes down as low as 60% or maybe even less than that. Now, there's nothing to worry about. Ultimately, machine is also learning. We have learned all through this year in our head. Some of our seniors have transferred their knowledge to us, and we have this processing machine which is processing all this data, and giving us idea as to what kind of price will be there in 3 months or 2 months, depending on the hundreds and hundreds of the factors. These machines are also learning. The machines had not seen the world before 2000. The machines had not anticipated COVID. The machines had not anticipated Russia-Ukraine war. All these things are getting built into the system. So when you are actually having a system, it keeps learning over a period of time. The more the data, at least correct data, whenever I am talking about the data, means correct data. So if more and more data goes into the system, obviously it will learn, and maybe few years down the line, 5 years or 6 years down the line, we will have much better accuracy. So let's not stop using these tools, but let's not rely too much on these tools also. Now, to give a sense of where we are today in terms of the procurement, digitalization in the area of procurement, this is a typical flow for any big organization having presence across the globe, having multiple plants and having operation in multiple geography. So, wherever I have shown it in green background, it's basically the one where I feel digitalization has matured. And wherever I am showing in yellow, they are the one where I feel that we are almost reaching into the maturity stage. And the red ones, though some of my colleagues, they talked about it and said that tools are available addressing all those areas also, but there are still some areas which I have kept in red, and I know that surely with my experience that we still don't have a solution for these reds. And that's where the innovation is going to happen from here on. From 22 onwards, actually, this is where the innovation is going to happen. Innovation, not much of innovation is required in the area of planning. We have advanced planners, we have SNOP tools, we have a lot of people talked about what-if analysis, algorithm-based tools for demand sensing. There are bots which are working successfully in giving the routine alerts. So nothing new about it. Demand estimation again, ClickViews and Power BI is fetching the data from ERP or multiple other database. They are all able to actually calculate, do the ABC analysis, they can do the risk and spend analysis, anything can be done. All slices and dices are possible now. This is all very safe now. Maybe some routine activities which a typical buyer does now, that can be assigned to a bot, and probably those bots can do some of the activities which a buyer is typically doing in a day-to-day operation. That's something which I'll also talk about. Demand aggregation is an area where I spoke about it earlier also, and this is an area where I feel that we are learning. We have learned a lot, but we are still learning. Like for example, commodity segmentation, consumption, projections, current supplier base, potential supplier base, we still are not there fully in terms of the digitalization. And this is where some innovation is happening, as I talked about the price forecasting tool, etc., or the demand forecasting tool, etc. So they are the one, this is the area where some activity is happening. And opportunity assessment is an area, purchasing strategy. Now, to be very honest, with due respect to machines, all the machines which are there in the marketplace, still, human mind at this point of time is better in terms of developing a purchasing strategy, at least as on date, than the machines. Okay, they can give you some data inputs to analyze, but ultimately even the analysis is also done by us today, and we are the one who are actually developing the purchasing strategy. So that's where I think we are not at all there. Again, the new supplier assessment, I think one of the questions was asked by one of the colleague, how is it possible to do the digital onboarding of a supplier? Yes, it is possible now. Likewise, searching vendor base is possible now. Multiple tools are available. Virtual audits, by the way, COVID has taught us this also. So virtual audits have also started happening. So this is an area which came out during the COVID times. Then again, online boarding, risk assessment, again, vendor onboarding on vendor portal, all this is getting digitalized completely now. Negotiation, I think we all know the very standardized processes. There are tools available for e-procurement tools. Implementation is an area again where I feel there are some challenges. Though internal approval as per the DOA, etc., it's all fine, that is possible to do today. But decisions like order splitting. Now these are a little bit, these are very critical decisions and you can't just rely on the machine. At least, the way machine is giving you the data, it's not reliable. Similarly, the issues like business transfer and phase out plans. You want to onboard a new vendor. You want to actually phase out another vendor. Now, these are the things, at least at this point of time, no smart tool is giving you a decision as to how to do it. It is still pretty much on your mind. You have to do it yourself. Order placement, simply totally automated. I don't think even the smallest of the organizations are now digital on this. Similarly, fulfillment management, pretty much done and dusted. Contract governance is an area where, of course, just in last couple of years, this area has picked up pace. And yes, it's also now almost done, I would say. Now, supplier performance management is another area where I think a lot of work has happened. Payment. Now, procurement and payment is something which is correlated. If you talk to any procurement guy, the biggest problem for him anytime is the payment. And unfortunately, it is not because the organization is not having money, it is because the processing is not happening. And that's where the challenge is. And even today, the challenge is, though some of the speakers talk about it, there are solutions, but I can tell you the invoice handling, three-way batching is a very, very nascent stage at this point of time. With due respect to all, even the service provider who claims that they are having maturity, I don't agree with them because I have experienced it myself. Particularly, if you're talking about the raw material, packing material, probably it's still much simpler compared to indirect material. When it comes to indirect material and when it comes to services, it is even more complex. So let's say if you are trying to process a payment for a 𝗕𝗂 or a logistics service provider, you're just gone. You're just gone. At least as on date, you are just gone. So, but the work is happening here. The work is still happening, and I will talk about it, what kind of work is happening. People talked about sustainability and green procurement. Now, here again, particularly for people like, for the procurement guys, the scope 3 is an area which is important. The data collection from the suppliers on the GHG emission, or these are the areas where a lot of data has to come from the suppliers, from the logistics service providers. At this point of time, at least I haven't come across a solution which can give a very authentic data of the supplier's carbon footprint reduction. Supplier says some percentage, but that percentage has no meaning to my organization. My organization needs in tons, how much is reduced for me, for Jubilant Ingravia, or let's say SRF, or let's say for Nestle. Now that data is not available, at least at this point of time. Maybe some shipping lines are working on it. Companies like Maersk, they have created some specific dashboards for the customers. But apart from that, this is a gray area at this point of time. Now, I think the blockchain is something which will work very well here once blockchain also evolves to that level. Now, people say necessity is the mother of all invention. I have added innovation also because innovation also happens when there is a necessity. And innovation happens when we are facing problem, particularly in the digitalization area. So, if the invoice processing is not happening, then you start applying the brain as to what should we do. A lot of people have come out with standardized format which goes to the vendor for filling the details, and then vendor is sending the invoices, and then we are trying to match up as to how we can actually or sort of remove the errors in the processing. So people are creating innovations on that side. Similarly, routine activities. This is an area where innovations are happening. I remember, we had implemented an ERP, and when we actually started the work, a lot of my colleagues were facing problem because it has every ERP is having its own set of challenges, limitations, or standards. Now, something which was available till yesterday is not available today. Now, data has to be picked from one place and to be entered into another place. Now, these are the kind of activities which bots can do very well. So, innovation is happening in this area where the routine works are totally delegated to the bots. Marketplace models. This is an area where innovation is happening and will happen in the near future. We have Amazon today, but it's for household stuff. We don't have any Amazon, we don't have any Flipkart for commodities as on date at least, right? And that's where I think the future lies. In future, we will have more Amazons and more Flipkarts and more in the commodity sphere, in indirect buying. In indirect buying, what is there today is catalogs. But unfortunately, the price, when you look at the price, then you start feeling, should I use or should I not use? So that kind of challenge, you have. Then machine learning capabilities, as I mentioned, are going to improve the pricing forecast. This is not today, but more and more data going into the system. Definitely, this will improve the machine ability. Then improvisation of OCR and RPA is around the corner, and the entire payment cycle, once it is all there, it will get automated. And by the way, just for the knowledge of all of you, OCR and this RPA, this is also something to do with how much of the invoices a particular system has processed. So more and more invoices are fed into the system. It will start understanding, okay, for a particular supplier, the price is, unit price is coming here, the total is coming here, the GST number is appearing at the bottom side. So, next time if 10 transactions happens, then the OCR will start recognizing automatically that for so and so supplier, things are in this sequence. Now, how will that happen? More and more data going into it. Today, systems are not capable. But 5 years down the line, I think we will have all these things. In the area of training, I think, gamification is something which is catching up very fast. And I'm sure, with gamification, with use of this AR and VR, the training will be much more smoother than what it is today. And, finally, I still believe that with all these things, ultimately it is we who will have to take the final decision. Yes, these tools will still help us up to the 98%, maybe 95%. We are the one who will have to take final call. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, please stay back for a few seconds, sir. Please, sir. Can I request Siddhartha Das on stage, sir?